Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. Nicolas Jackson back in the news as his loan at Bayern has not gone particularly well for him. Is there a way for him back into the first team at Chelsea, or is he just another asset to be sold? The next round for the FA Cup has been drawn, and we will be facing off against Wrexham in their own backyard. And we've got some unfortunate news surrounding the injury woes of Marc Cucurella, which could really affect the team for a little while going forward. So let's kick it off with the Nicolas Jackson stuff, right? Nicolas Jackson. A lot of us have been pining for Nicolas Jackson, and I guess less so recently because João Pedro's been doing so well, but there was a stretch definitely earlier in the season where just no one was scoring any goals, especially not from up front, and as much stick as Jackson got in general, his goal return was reasonable especially compared to the likes of Liam Rosenior. So we shifted Nicolas Jackson out to Bayern Munich on loan at the start of this season. It was all a bit of a furore, it was all a bit dramatic, wasn't it, with him flying out to Munich and then Liam Rosenior getting injured and us being like, we want you to come back, and he was like, no, I'm staying, and ultimately stay he did. We managed to get a €10 million loan fee for him, which was absolutely unbelievable, and there was an obligation to buy if he happened to play 40 games. I think it was 42 games, like ridiculous amount of games for Bayern Munich this season. That's not happened. It's nowhere near, it's actually been like a month or two already since it's been mathematically impossible for Nicolas Jackson to have hit the amount of games he needed in order to stay there and trigger the obligation to buy. But even in and around that, there was always this idea that if they liked him, Bayern Munich could still fork out 50 million for him and then get him in the team later anyway. But it looks like Bayern Munich have made the decision, and that is not going to happen. Nicolas Jackson has scored 5 goals in 22 appearances and got 1 assist for Bayern Munich this season, which I guess isn't terrible, but he's just not getting very much game time, and let's be honest, man, you've got Harry Kane there. It's just not going to happen, is it? So Nicolas Jackson is probably going to find himself back on our doorstep in the summer, whether it be to try and reintegrate into the team or to be sold, I don't know, but there are some interesting tweets going on around it, and we're going to get into that today. So Peter Rutzler at Times Sport said Chelsea have not ruled out keeping Nicolas Jackson next season. With Enzo Maresca being replaced by Rosenior, Jackson is said to be keeping his options open. So that is really interesting, isn't it? Because it's definitely gives some weight to the idea that the reason that Nicolas Jackson didn't want to stick around in particular was because of Enzo Maresca, and there was a big fallout, wasn't there? Like, obviously, Jackson decided to end last season getting lots of red cards, which was silly. Got one in the Club World Cup, got one in the Newcastle game that was pivotal to our season at the time, although we still scraped fourth without getting through in that match. And ultimately, we lost him for subsequent games because of that. And I don't know what went on behind doors. None of us know what went on behind doors, but if this is to be believed, then you would have thought that the reason that Nicolas Jackson was not, he was so keen to stay at Bayern Munich despite having to go up against Harry Kane in order to try and get some game time, he really didn't want to come back to Chelsea. So let's just kind of feel these out, man. Let's just kind of feel these out. What can happen, right? So if we continue along the line that we've been already going on, Nicolas Jackson comes back and gets sold again. Now, there are a lot of teams that would be interested in a Nicolas Jackson, for sure. Would we get really, really good money for him? Probably not. Like, we were talking about 70 mil in the summer, 70, 80 mil for Nicolas Jackson in the summer. It'd probably be more like 50, 60. Now, at the end of the day, he is still very young. He can score. Although he's not getting lots of game time for Bayern Munich, he is proving that he can do a job there. He had reasonable returns at Chelsea, 14 goals in his first season, 12 in his second, despite being out of injury for a really long time. So, I don't know if a Premier League team would come in for him, but I imagine there'd be like a lot of Spanish teams or Italian teams, maybe a French team or two, that would definitely be interested in his signature, because he's a good versatile player, right? He played as a striker for us, but at Villarreal before he came to us, he played a lot at left wing, and that it also leads me into the other thing I want to talk about. If Nicolas Jackson is to be reintegrated into the Chelsea team, what does that look like? So I'm going to dive into another tweet, because what we all know is Emmanuel Omega from Strasbourg is joining us next season, and they are quite a similar profile of players. Fabrizio Romano had this to say on Twitter: remember, Chelsea already signed a striker for the summer, Omega, who is similar in terms of skills to Jackson, so that's a point. Of course, a change of manager means a possibility Jackson stays, but my understanding is that it's expected different opportunities on the market will be explored rather than staying. So the guy from the Times is saying that Jackson's keeping his options open, but Fabrizio Romano is probably commenting from the Chelsea side of it, saying they'll probably still look to move him on. And let's just talk about this, right? Because Omega looks really, really good, man. But the issue with Omega, especially this season, is he's going to have spent about 3-4 months of this entire season out with injury. That's a worry in itself. We don't need any more massively injury-prone players on the books, do we? But in terms of output, It's night and day, man. It's night and day. So NIcolas Jackson has scored 5 goals and got 1 assist in 22 games. And Emmanuel Omega has got 7 goals and 2 assists in 11 games. Now, the worrying thing about that, he's only played 11 games this season. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you would have thought if it's a choice, you're going to probably go with Emmanuel Omega because he hasn't even had a crack at the whip yet. Whereas NIcolas Jackson has, or is probably more valuable in the grand scheme of things as well because of his experience at the top level. But if NIcolas Jackson were to come back in, does he just compete for the striker spot? So the thing is, initially the striker spot is right, we've got João Pedro who's doing really well. We've got Liam Delap, who is unfortunately flattering to deceive, although he's got the rest of the season to change people's minds or whatever. Only 2 goals so far this season, which is, just not good enough, man. Absolutely not good enough. We've got Marc. Marc is just going to get sold, isn't he? Or loaned, but I think probably sold. And then we've got Omega coming in. So we've already got, before we even talk about Jackson, we've got 4 striker options that need sorting out and figuring out. So my proposition, which is the same one I've made before, actually, and it's one I absolutely can't believe we've explored more. NIcolas Jackson on the left wing. Is it a thing? Does he desperately want to be a striker? Has he got a contract stipulation that says, I'm only playing as a striker, I'm not being farmed out to the wing or anything like that? But when you look at the way we're playing now, right? So Liam Rosenior is not using his wingers to hug the byline and to whip crosses in and to funnel it back down to the midfielders and centre-backs and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Our wingers, Jamie Gittins, Garnacho, obviously Garnacho's not been very good recently. Jamie Gittins has performed pretty well so far. Esteval, Willian, Neto, these guys are all finding their way more into the centre of the pitch now, aren't they? Rather than just being these byline-hugging wingers. So is NIcolas Jackson not an option for the left wing? Is he not an upgrade, arguably, on Alejandro Garnacho and Jamie Gittins at the moment? Is it a case of Alejandro Garnacho gets loaned or sold and then we bring NIcolas Jackson in and maybe he can play that left wing spot? He's already got chemistry with Cole Palmer. You would have thought that his ability to change positions would also be really useful with João Pedro and Cole Palmer and Esteval, and we could have a really fluid attack if we haven't got a left winger like Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho, one like NIcolas Jackson who is kind of more willing to try out different positions and stuff, right? There seems to be something interesting in that to me. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. NIcolas Jackson, he's coming back. Does he come back just to be sold? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Do we try and reintegrate him into the team? Does he get opportunities as striker, or should we try him at left wing? Just saying. So yeah, guys, like I said, let me know what you think. But guys, if you have made it this far into the video, I would love you to do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing this video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so FA Cup, another trophy that we maybe can win. I don't know. It's been a bit of a giant killing so far, isn't it? Mansfield have gotten through, and Wrexham are obviously gotten through to play us. Burnley and Crystal Palace obviously been knocked out by the Macclesfield and do you know what I mean, and Mansfield and all of that. So it is quite interesting. We have drawn Wrexham, Deadpool's Wrexham. It's not just Deadpool, it's Rob McElhenney as well. So that's a really interesting one, man, and I think that for Wrexham, that's probably one of the bigger ones that they wanted. I imagine they'd have been equally happy to have gotten Arsenal as well. But at the same time, that's massive for them, man. Do you know what I mean? So Wrexham, we all know a little bit about Wrexham. Some of us might have seen the documentary, the Netflix documentary that they've got ongoing at the moment. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Ryan Reynolds, obviously famous from Deadpool and various acting jobs, a failed Green Lantern movie. And Rob McElhenney, obviously mostly known from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but he's got a few of his own other bits going on as well. They're good friends. They bought a football club. They bought the oldest football club ever. I think that was the thing, wasn't it? Wrexham are the oldest football club, and they have taken them from conference obscurity into the Championship in 4 seasons. That's absolutely wild. This is their first season in the Championship and their 8th. That is also absolutely wild. There's apparently a new thing coming in the Championship, isn't there, where 8th place is going to get into the playoffs as well. So up to, between 6th and 8th will go into the playoffs rather than just up to 6th. So that's going to be really interesting. And yeah, at the end of the day, from Chelsea's perspective, I'm not worried about it. Do you know what I mean? We put Hull to the sword, Hull are in 4th. So you would have thought that Wrexham would be a bit of an easier job than that. But Wrexham's just a fairy tale, man. We love that. And the fact that Chelsea get to be their first big cup opposition, I think is absolutely awesome. I'm really looking forward to the game. I think there'll be a lot of media around it. But either way, I just think it's going to be a fun game. I do think we're going to win that one. Do you know what I mean? So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Wrexham, Do you think now they can do this? Do you know what I mean? They've been doing pretty well. I know they were after Gareth Bale and stuff for a while, and there's definitely because of the celebrity aspect of it and stuff. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely been a few players that have gone in and out of the club that are a bit higher than their kind of proposed level. I don't know if they've got any blockbuster superstars at the moment. It's something I'll look into nearer the time. But yeah, tell me what you think, man. Wrexham, yay or nay? Do you think we'll do it, or do you think that will be an upset waiting to happen? And finally, for today's video, we are going to talk about Marc Cucurella and what Liam Rosenior has said, and we've got an injury update essentially about Marc Cucurella that is not very promising. Breaking: sources close to Marc Cucurella say he will miss 3 to 4 weeks, missing games against Burnley, Arsenal and Aston Villa. Burnley not so bothered about. Arsenal and Aston Villa, that's a big loss, isn't it? Now, Yoro Hato is going to get a lot of game time coming up. And it's kind of good that it's come in this moment, because this is the only moment for a while where we haven't had 2 games a week. Do you know what I mean? It actually feels really weird. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, not having 2 games a week. This is my first year as a football content creator. And I've just gotten really into this rhythm of midweek, weekend. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, there's all of this time before the next game. So Marc Cucurella not going to be available for 3 or 4 weeks. That sucks, man. That sucks, because at any point in any position, he's normally one of the best guys on the pitch. Maybe not so much at the end of Enzo Maresca's tenure, but in general, Marc Cucurella is a really, really important part of the squad, and because he's so versatile, any manager will love him. Do you know what I mean? So that means Yoro Hato is going to come in for these games, I assume. Hopefully there's no injury worries with Yoro Hato. Yoro Hato has been playing really well recently. I think one of the reasons Maresca didn't do very well in general was because he had some aversion to using the likes of Yoro Hato and Andre Santos. Look at Andre Santos now. He's played every game, I think. He's featured in if not every single game under Liam Rosenior so far, and that started from Callum McFarlane as well, when we had Man City and Fulham in between Liam Rosenior coming in. Yoro Hato looks like a good player, and obviously he scored that absolute banger against Charlton. Like, we loved that, didn't we? But at the same time, it's not even about that. Like, he's a good left back. We spent a lot of money on him. He's a young player. He's got lots of potential. He's gotten a run of games recently, which is good as well, but is it enough to, he's going to have to deal with Bukayo Saka and Emi Buendia and Ollie Watkins, and do you know what I mean? Like, there's some big games coming up for him, man. So, look, I think Yoro Hato is not necessarily going to be the reason that we lose any of these games, but the opposite side of that coin is Marc Cucurella could be the reason that we win some of these games or get the points that we need, because Marc Cucurella, although not as much this season, has got a goal in him. Do you know what I mean? And yes, Yoro Hato has as well, but Marc Cucurella a little bit more reliably can be an attacking outlet, and he can, bulldog his way into the box and get a scrappy last minute header or something, and he's good at like winding up opposition and stuff as well. He's got so much to his game other than just the technical side that's really useful, and he's experienced. Do you know what I mean? He's one of the older players in the squad, so it's a lot of pressure to put on Yoro Hato, but like I say, as long as Yoro Hato has a reasonable game, I don't think we need to worry, essentially. You know what I mean? So that's it, guys. I'm going to start wrapping it up there. Let me know what you think about all of today's topics. Nicolas Jackson, do you want to see him back in the squad? Do you think it's best just to bring him back and sell him? Emmanuel Omega, obviously that's essentially who we would be using instead of Jackson. Are you worried, like I am a little bit, about Emmanuel Omega's injury woes, even though he performs really well? Like, he's had a great season, man, 100%. The FA Cup against Wrexham, that's just going to be a good time, man, isn't it? It's just going to be fun. And Marc Cucurella, do you think Yoro Hato is strong enough to deputise for Marc Cucurella in these next 3 games? Or do you think we see something of times past, like Malagusto being thrown out over there? Or do you think Badiashile gets called in from the dark to play like a left centre-back role and we go back to inverted midfield? What would you do? Do you think it's just a straight swap? We put Hato there? Or do you think for these big games, maybe we look at other options, like how we played a 5 at the back against Arsenal and something like that? Nice one, guys. Thank you all very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.